My friends, I was trying to think of some way to shock you today on Riell Truth, and I came up with it. I'm going to give you some good news item from CNBC.com. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose sharply on Tuesday, that's today, on the back of strong quarterly results from 3M and Caterpillar. The 30 stock index rose 174 points and hit an intraday record high. The S&P 500 gained 0.2%, with industrials and financials leading advancers. Corning and 3M were the best performers on the index. The NASDAQ composite advanced 0.25%. Not good enough yet, right? Okay. Oh, you're driving a hard bargain. Okay, here you go. Breitbart. Nearly 1.5 million Americans dropped off the food stamp rolls since President Trump's inauguration on January 20, 2017, according to the latest U.S. Department of Agriculture stats on food stamp enrollment. Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP participation dropped to 41,203,000 as of July. The most recent data available from the USDA, according to the latest data, SNAP enrollment decreased by 3.48%. That's 1.5 million people since Donald Trump began his presidency. So, from May to July alone, nearly 400,000 Americans got off of food stamps. And the trend shows enrollment has been consistently falling every month of Trump's presidency, unquote. So what does this mean? It means the people who are yapping at Donald Trump about everything, about the words he used in consoling a war widow, about the way he speaks about this person or that person, they're all idiots. The fact is that actions speak louder than words, and results are what count. And Trump is getting results. Fewer people on welfare, fewer people on food stamps. We've got tax revision going through that will see more people than ever in America not paying taxes, and everyone else's taxes coming down. He's doing battle with the swamp to repeal and replace Obamacare. He's got dozens of things done already. The economy is booming. The stock market is booming. And you've got some jackass in Washington, D.C., some old bag with a sequin cowboy hat on her head trying to get her 15 minutes of fame. My friends, you are a sharp group of people when you listen to my show. You're not about to be fooled. Don't listen to the yaya. Don't listen to the hype. Don't listen to the hapless media, the fake news. Forget all that junk. It's all just static. What counts is that Trump is getting things done. Getting real things accomplished for you and for me. So altogether, thank you, President Trump. It's Tuesday, Riell Truth. We'll be right back.
Out of mind. Let's remember our brave men and women in the military by sending care packages to them while they are away. You may not have a specific soldier in mind to help. Just call your local veterans organization. Lake City Electric in Fort Collins, your electrical and retrofit specialist. Visit them online or call 970-493-4077. That's 970-493-4077. Beloved, do not forget every spirit, but test the spirit, whether they are God, because many false prophets have gone into the void. By this you will know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that contests that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not contest that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, which you have already heard was coming and is now already in the world. 1 John 4:1.
Forget the new developments.
My my friends, welcome back to Riell Truth. I am Howard Riell, by the way. We have traitors in our midst, traitors in high places. And no, it has nothing whatsoever to do with Donald Trump or anyone connected with him. It has to do, surprise, surprise, with the Obama-Clinton disgusting web of snakes. Sean Hannity, Newt Gingrich from last night, go.
And this massive corruption.
The apex is the Clinton team, and I have a very simple challenge for the Congress. Get all of their donations on the record. When you go to the Canadian Clinton Foundation, which didn't have to report, very clever legal gimmick,
One last
but
thing.
wrong, you start taking these apart. It's horrendous.
Follow that and also lift the NDA. And apparently there are tapes. There are emails. Let me just go through the mountain of evidence that they have. The FBI had in 2009 documents, emails. They have the financial records. They have eyewitnesses, and they had someone infiltrate.
Right.
And they knew crimes were being committed. They knew then. That raises questions about Mueller, too, but I've got to break. Stay right there. We're going to stay with you. We'll come back. When we come back, we have the other issues in Washington. More NFL players just continuing to disrespect the flag. Guess what happened? The crowd suffering negative effects. Post kickoff. The result.
All right, my friends, our mission today is not to talk about the NFL and the muscle-bound nitwits who think that disrespecting America is a cool thing to do, or the wishy-washy, spineless Roger Goodell who doesn't want to tick off the muscle-bound nitwits, and so he's not even enforcing his own NFL rules. We're not going to talk about that today. We're going to continue talking about treason, about what apparently people in high places in the Democrat Party colluding with Russia to give them the ability to not only make but sell nuclear weapons. If you can believe such a thing, well, believe it. Because when we come back, we're going to hear more about it. And if I had to point my finger at one person most likely to be involved in some skullduggerous crap like this, yeah, it would be Hillary Clinton. No surprise there, right? She'd do anything for money or power. And so we're going to spend some more time thinking about this when we come back. And then we're going to talk about renting versus buying a home. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things today. Not just treason. But treason is the reason why so many things going on politically in this country. And we're going to flesh it out. All right, there's the music. We'll be right back, my friends. More Real Truth today. Go nowhere.
John bore witness of him and cried out, saying, This was he of whom I said, He who comes after me is preferred before me, for he was before me. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. We hope these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. This is the America News Network.
Chaplain Collins LLC with our emergency first responders and put the country. They're willing to put their lives on the line for us with little or no thanks. So let's all take the time to thank our first responders for all they do for us. Also thanking our veterans for the sacrifice they made for our freedom. This message is from Chaplain Collins LLC, the 10 locations in Denver and Fort Collins, serving the community for over 14 years. Visit them online at chapelcollins.com. Piccolo's Restaurant in Denver, over 58,000 of these were tested by non-stamp. Keep an eye out for youngsters to play. If you see anything suspicious, contact the authorities immediately. It's Piccolo's Restaurant in Denver. It's not only best in town and it's the people who care. Give them a call at 303-757-5166. 303-757-5166.
All right, folks, welcome back to Riell Truth. Howard Riell behind the microphone. We're going to continue to talk about Russia collusion, thanks to the Obama and Hillary Clinton administration. Here is Sean Hannity on the radio talking to Jay Sekulow, who is a lawyer who works for Donald Trump. Here we go.
We have major new developments again.
On the Uranium One deal. The Clintons benefited both in financially numerous ways. The FBI knew in 2009, and they had evidence in 2009, that Vladimir Putin and the Russians had a network that they were building to try and corner the market on American uranium. And the FBI at that time gathered documents, emails, financial records, and they had infiltrated this Russian uranium group that wanted to either transfer or get a hold of some of the assets that we have in this country. They were finding out, and the FBI discovered bribery and kickbacks, extortion, and money laundering. Okay. Now, Robert Mueller, who were the people that knew about the Uranium One deal and had to sign off? There were 9 people. Wasn't one of them Hillary? One of them Eric Holder?
Yeah, so it was Department of Energy, Department of Justice, Trade Representative, State, Commerce, Homeland Security, National Intelligence.
Okay. So as the head of the DOJ, all right, as the head of the DOJ, didn't Eric Holder have to know that the FBI had this information?
Yeah, you would think that the head of the Department of Justice would know by the FBI as to the nature of the investigation.
And I don't know why you're resisting the idea that the FBI director at the time, Robert Mueller, would have known, as Rod Rosenstein would have known.
Whether he knew or not, he didn't have. Remember this: whether he knew or not, I mean, he was the head of the FBI, so I'm sure he knew what was going on with the investigation. He wasn't in a position of authority with regard to the sale of Uranium One. He could not be, under the law, an objecting party. The objecting party is set forth in the statute, which authorizes the Committee on Foreign Investments in the United States. That would be the Attorney General of the United States having that vote, not the FBI director. Would have no influence whatsoever.
Yeah.
All right, my friends, we're about to go to a break. Let me bring it to a sharp point for you. It's very easy for one's eyes to glaze over listening to all this. And the key point is, what does it mean to us? It means that the Democrats, Podesta, Hillary, Obama, and all their people, they're looking to line their pockets and build their careers and expand their areas of influence, and they don't care if it places Americans in danger. They don't care if it's illegal. They don't care if it's immoral. They don't care if it's downright dangerous, because that yellow cake might have been going to any terrorist anywhere in the world. that uranium could be going anywhere for use in nuclear weapons, anywhere. The Democrats, from Hillary Clinton and Obama on down, are willing to risk nuclear Armageddon. Literally. For money and power. The Democrats are willing to blow up the world, or at least risk it, in order to feather their own nests. That's the take home. We'll be right back.
Animal House taxidermy and rights for scientific thank you to all the brave men and women in the armed forces who have served our country. Consider hiring them to our sensible peace. And to those heroes back home proficient abroad, know that your dedication, selflessness, and courage are appreciated. May God bless America. This message is from Animal House taxidermy and rights, proud to salute fighting forces of our country. Now, the testimony is gone, and recently I looked and asked him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, "I am not the Messiah." And they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" And he answered, "No." The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 19 to 21.
No one anywhere more noble, righteous, these brave men and women in their families put the hope of our freedom every day. And our prayers of the Father. This message is sacred. It's your 24-hour Walmart superfan on Tiger 287 popular. They're on the air because they care. We live in the blocker planet and remind ourselves that the drug problem is well up. We know our kids will be approved. We want to applaud the entrepreneurs and hear that truth. They provide examples to the peers and families to be the best they can be. That's the purpose of the blocker plan that they produce serving our area. 1943 specialized in that black TC and coke and complete the process. All three of the facility from each point that you're free to facilitate from the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
My friends, it's been a while since I had Roger Stone on this show, via video, of course. But here he is, Roger Stone, speaking from InfoWars, being interviewed, and he's also got some interesting things to talk about. Here we go.
InfoWars. And this whole week seems to be about the JFK documents, monumentous decision by President Donald Trump to thwart the pressures of the deep state and the Mandarins at Langley and opt for total transparency, opt for the truth with the American people. It's really a dramatic and historic turn of events.
Yeah, and I remember when we were discussing this last week, Roger, we were imploring the president to do this, and as usual, he listens to his constituency. And as it was last week, I still have the same concern is, are we going to get the truth from this, or are they going to redact these documents before the public can see it? Will it basically be a wiped clean slate before the public even sees it. But the timing for this is key, I think, Roger, not just because obviously they're calling for the assassination of President Trump, but also what we just saw in Vegas. I mean, if we get these documents and it shows the clear cover-up by the FBI on the truth of the JFK massacre, as well as perhaps multiple shooters, well, all of a sudden this adds more clarity to what we saw in Vegas, perhaps. So how much information actually comes from these documents is going to be key. I think the American public are going to be waited with bated breath, though, Roger.
No, I think you're exactly right, Owen. Look, if there's a leading indicator, it would be the first tranche of documents that were dumped by the National Archive back in July. Frankly, those were so heavily redacted, and there was so much material withheld on the bogus claim of, quote, national security, that they were of no value whatsoever to scholars and researchers. So in other words, I would not rule out an effort by the deep state to essentially backdoor nullify President Donald Trump's courageous decision to make this material public by stretching the rubric of national security to hide their misdeeds. I think that is not only probable, it's likely, and we here at InfoWars will let the American people know if the President of the United States is being countermanded. I have an entire team of researchers. We will go to work the instant these documents are released. But let me be clear. The National Archives said first that they would put these out in batches, manageable batches. Now they're saying that they will make them available in one giant data dump. It is unlikely to have a competent search function. And therefore, I think there is an effort by the bureaucrats within the deep state to obscure the data, and then we have to dig into it and see how much of it is blacked out. You know, if it goes and says Oswald met with redacted for the next 5 paragraphs, this will not be very helpful. One of the researchers who brought my attention to the shortcomings of the July data dump by the National Archive was Dr. Jerome Corsi here at InfoWars.
Well, they want to say for national security, quote unquote national security. I think that you touched on what this really is. This is deep state security. This is not letting actually let the republic, the nation, know how entrenched the deep state is in some of these intelligence agencies, specifically the FBI.
Well, it's very important to recognize that we learned so much from the original, the first dump of data under the 1994 JFK Assassination Records Release Act. We learned, for example, that FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover informed President Lyndon Baines Johnson that the KGB, the Russian intelligence agency, had conducted their own secret investigation into the Kennedy murder and determined that LBJ was the ringleader. We learned that French intelligence had advised Jacqueline Kennedy that her husband was murdered as the result of a domestic conspiracy run by, yes, Vice President Lyndon Baines Johnson. We learned that the Secretary of the Senate, Bobby Baker, once described by Lyndon Baines Johnson as, quote, my strong right arm, told a Kennedy White House aide on the morning of the 1961 John F. Kennedy inauguration, and I quote, John F. Kennedy will not live to serve out his term, and he will die a sudden and violent death. Really, how is it that Mr. Johnson's top aide knew that in 1961? We also learned that the deep state admitted when J. Edgar Hoover communicated with President Lyndon Johnson that the man who is alleged to be Oswald, the man who showed up at both the Soviet and Cuban embassies in Mexico City, did not physically look like the Oswald who was arrested in the wake of John Kennedy's murder. Now, Philip Sheenan from the Washington Post is quoted as saying, we know Oswald went to Mexico City. No, we don't know that. We know that a man claiming to be Oswald went to Mexico City. So I'm hopeful that these documents will shed substantial light a number of these areas. In the next segment, I'm going to talk about Ted Cruz's father, Rafael Cruz, and what I expect to come out of these documents regarding his activities in New Orleans, where I believe he was, and the National Enquirer is correct about this, working with the Central Intelligence Agency as a member of Lee Harvey Oswald's crew.
Well, and the other angle that I'm thinking of with this, Roger, is what kind of damage would these documents on the JFK assassination do to the Warren Commission, which was praised as gospel, much like the 9/11 Commission is praised as gospel, as the true story. So, that's another angle that they wouldn't want these documents to get out, because it shows how these commissions are really just there to support the official narrative, which is really just there to protect the deep state. So we're going to get into more of that, Roger, as well as I just got some,
all right, we'll get into that when we come back on the other side of this commercial, my friends. In the meantime, let's get some news in here. Okay, where did I put the news? There it is. Item from the Wall Street Journal: a growing percentage of renters believe it's cheaper to rent than to buy a home, which explains why the home ownership rate remains persistently low nearly a decade after the housing crash. A boom in apartment construction in the past few years has caused rent increases to begin to level off in many U.S. cities, while home price gains have accelerated over the past year. As a result, roughly 76% of renters in August said they believe renting is more affordable than owning, up from 65% in September 2016, according to survey results from Freddie Mac, expected to be released Wednesday. We talk virtually every day about how renting is becoming less and less affordable. I think the answer is just that housing is becoming less and less affordable, and renting is the more affordable of the two, said David Brickman, Executive Vice President and head of Freddie Mac Multifamily, unquote. My friends, I have not bought another house. I've owned two houses. I haven't bought another one because it just plain doesn't pay. I rent. And if you're facing that decision, I would advise you to take a good long look at this choice, because the wrong one could cost you a monumental amount of money, one that you'll have trouble paying down the rest of your life if you guess wrong. Renting versus buying, it's a complicated issue. Check it out. Do the research before you make the decision. We'll be back with more Real Truth.
Article 4. The right of the people to be secure in the person, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the person or thing to be seized. If the catastrophe struck with your family, be prepared. Are you confident you wouldn't react in a panic? Is there
Hi, my
one way
friends.
to get all your emergency supplies? Paris Survival
That
encourages
has leveraged
and constant preparation on panic to crisis. Paris Survival, located at 3366 South Broadway, is a professional, reputable, full-service business providing quality, realistic preparedness supplies at an affordable price. Go online, stop by, or call 303-781-0343. Paris Survival. American Window Cleaning Equipment is right out of a mine current. Keep an eye on your child while it's superintendent trigger become law. This poses an opportunity for the vehicle. Please make every effort to keep track of your equipment at all times. If you have information regarding a lost child, call local authorities at once. This is from American Window Cleaning Incorporated, Franklin. For residential or commercial window cleaning, call 303-263-4228.
Be very important.
All right, my friends, we are back. More Riell Truth. And you know what? We're going to talk some more about the JFK assassination because we've got a president who wants transparency, who wants honesty, who wants open government. God knows it's been a very, very, very long time since we had a president like that. We may never get another one after Donald Trump goes from the scene. So let's talk about these revelations that should be coming in the next week or two about the classified documents concerning the JFK assassination. Here is Dick Morris, longtime Washington insider, to unpack it for us. Go.
Tomorrow, President Trump.
set up a commission called the Warren Commission, headed by the highly respected Chief Justice Earl Warren, that investigated it and concluded that Oswald acted alone and that he was the sole assassin. But the Warren Commission is deeply suspect, and its evidence was very limited. It was largely guided by inputs from the CIA and the FBI, of the very agencies that might have been implicated in the assassination. And one of the members of the commission was Allen Dulles, who was the former head of the CIA, who basically had set up the agency in the first place. And at the time of the Warren Commission, everybody realized that if this fact was proven to be a conspiracy that ran deeply into the American government, it could imperil our stability, imperil our ability to function as a country, and imperil our democracy. It could have sparked literally a revolution or a civil war. So it was perhaps based on that that Warren consented to head the commission, and that everybody felt that it was important for it to come to a recommendation or a finding that would not be destabilizing.
And my friends, the Warren Commission wound up being pure crap. They decided that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, which was utter nonsense. If you've done any reading on this subject at all, you realize it was pure fantasy. The people responsible for the JFK assassination have never been brought to justice, just like the people responsible for 9/11. Item from Bloomberg. Filings for unemployment benefits plunged last week to the lowest level since 1973. As workers affected by Hurricanes Harvey and Irma continued to return to their jobs, Labor Department figures showed last Thursday. My friends, the economic news, the labor news, it's all good. It's all good. And it would have all been desolation and despair if, God forbid, Hillary Rodham Clinton had become president. God threw us a bone. He spared us that one. Let's see what other troubles down the road we can avoid. We'll take a break and we'll be back. More Real Truth.
No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin tender in payment of debt, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contract, or grant any title of nobility. Article 1, Section 10.
Chaplain Colangelo, these are emergency first responders with a professionalism and degree. They're willing to put their lives on the line for us with little or no thanks. So let's all take the time to thank our first responders for all they do for us. Also thanking our veterans for the sacrifice they made for our freedom. This message is from Chaplain Collins, LLC, the key location in Denver and Bush Hall, serving the community for over 13 years. Visit them online at chaplaincollins.com.
Pickles Restaurant Denver line to the percent of 58,000 of these were accepted by non-state. Keep an eye out for youngsters to play. If you see anything suspicious, contact the authorities immediately. This message from Pickles Restaurant Denver is not only best economic and it's the people who care. Give them a call at 303-757-5166. 303-757-5166.
Guys, we're almost done. Amazing, huh? How much information you can pack into 60 minutes. I do my best. I use a shoehorn. Item from Pittsburgh CBS Local, KDKA. A Pittsburgh public school teacher was seriously injured after officials say she was followed in her car and assaulted after school, allegedly in a dispute over a child's cell phone. Hours after the incident, late on Wednesday night, Pittsburgh police confirmed to KDKA that they were working on an arrest warrant or warrants for a suspect or suspects in the case who remained unidentified. Unquote. My friends, another sign of the moral and social decline in this country. Now, teachers who sanction students are being followed home and attacked. Unbelievable. Item from the Independent over in the UK. Academics have criticized trigger warnings after Cambridge University students were warned about potentially distressing topics in the plays of William Shakespeare. English literature undergraduates were apparently cautioned that a lecture focusing on Titus Andronicus and the Comedy of Errors would include, quote, discussions of sexual violence and sexual assault. According to the Telegraph, the trigger warnings were posted in the English faculty's Notes on Lectures document, which is circulated to students at the university. Academics have expressed concerns that colleges trying to protect young adults from certain issues may render them incapable of dealing with real life when they graduate. Unquote. Did they say may render them incapable of dealing with real life? They can hardly avoid rendering these kids incapable of dealing with real life. Colleges there and here are teaching kids to avoid having to deal with real life. That doesn't help the kids. It hurts them. Item also from the Independent. The latest issue of Playboy features a transgender playmate, a first in the magazine's 64-year history. Inez Rao poses fully nude in the November-December 2017 issue, which is also the first to hit newsstands following the death of the magazine's founder, Hugh Hefner. The 26-year-old model has been shot for the magazine before. However, this time around marks her debut as the first official transgender playmate, which means she will appear in a full pictorial in the iconic centerfold. Unquote. My friends, well, at least we know what Hugh Hefner is doing these days. He's spinning in his grave. Item from Yahoo. A Frenchman and a Tunisian woman were convicted on Wednesday on appeal in Tunis for public indecency after an altercation with the police who arrested the couple while they were hugging in a car. The couple, who maintained they were not kissing, were given a lighter sentence than the original term handed out at their October 4 trial after widespread outrage on social media and in the press fostered over the incident. Unquote. My friends, we're bringing millions of Muslims into this country, and this is how Muslims think, and this is how Muslims act. They arrested this couple who were hugging in a car. Now, if these are the kind of people you want to be surrounded with for the rest of your life, and make no mistake about it, you will be surrounded by them for the rest of your life, and your children and grandchildren will be living amongst them too for their lives. If this is the kind of mindset, the kind of mentality, the kind of culture you want to bring here, well, I pity you. I pity you, your delusions, your naivete, and I pity you, the guilt you will feel when, God forbid, your children are beaten, harassed, raped, killed, and you know that you were in favor of bringing those people here. God help you. May God be merciful on your soul, because my conscience is clear. I don't want third world rabble coming here, and I'm prepared to do something about it, and I'm doing it right now. I'll be back tomorrow, and I'll do it then too. More Real Truth in 23 hours, my friends. Hasta luego.